Growing up in an orphanage often felt like being in a prison. I lost my identity, my culture, even my mother tongue. An institution can never be home.
Up to 8 million children live in orphanages across the world. And tragically, 80% of children in orphanages have at least one parent, many of whom could care for them with support.
When I was about 10 years old, my biological father came to visit me at the orphanage, but he was told not to return.
This unnecessary separation from their families exacerbates the vulnerability of these children, leaving them terribly exposed.
Orphanage trafficking is the recruitment or transfer of children from their families into orphanages for the purpose of exploitation and profit.
Families who are simply poor or needing support are coerced or deceived into relinquishing their children to institutions who strip them of their parental rights.
Orphanage operators have worked out that they can make a good profit from international funding and from volunteerists coming and donating money.
The sad truth is that much of the donated money never reaches the children themselves, and even donated goods are often sold by the orphanages for profit. These children often endure maltreatment, have inadequate health care and little or no education, and even suffer abuse within these facilities.
The cycle of trauma is perpetuated when volunteers form connections with children only to depart, reinforcing the belief that those who care will eventually leave.
As a teen, I actually volunteered in an orphanage in Central America where I was encouraged to interact and play with the children. And of course, my trip was well-intentioned, but when we left, many of these children were heartbroken.
Orphanage trafficking disguises as altruism. People don't think of orphanages as places that are unsafe or sites of trafficking, but the harms caused to children are significant.
Orphanage trafficking is one of the most unknown types of human trafficking, yet it impacts on the most vulnerable in society, children.
So what can be done?
We need to educate. Countries from around the world send millions of dollars to support orphanages. This money can be redirected.
Institutions are not appropriate environments for children and do not support their holistic development. Resources need to be directed towards better solutions.
Poverty is just a lack of resources. Resources we can fix. Love, you can't buy that. That needs to happen in a family.
Donors and volunteers actually have a lot of power to reverse the trend of orphanage trafficking simply by taking away the incentives, the ability to profit from donors, from volunteers, and from institutionalizing children.
We also need to legislate.
The proliferation of orphanages in many parts of the world is because governments fail to provide oversight in childcare and protection.
Legislators can introduce and pass comprehensive laws that categorise orphanage trafficking as a form of modern slavery. Such laws should include strong penalties for those involved in trafficking and also regulations against orphanage tourism and orphanage volunteering.
And laws enabling the criminality of businesses to be detected and their premises shut down, as well as court orders requiring convicted perpetrators to pay compensation to the victims.
Stopping orphanage trafficking actually requires the cooperation of countries that send volunteers and funding and countries where the orphanages are situated. Initiatives like travel advisories to warn of the harms of orphanage volunteering and tourism are also really important.
Legislators should ensure that trafficking laws in their countries criminalise orphanage trafficking.
We can also advocate through our platforms in the media and our areas of influence.
We must advocate for families. Instead of removing a child from their home, we should remove poverty from the home.
We need to advocate for increased home-based care in families to ensure that children are not being exploited in orphanages.
By collectively tackling the root causes, but also the consequences of orphanage trafficking, together we can work towards offering a much brighter future for some of the world's most vulnerable children.
Educate, legislate, advocate. What will you do to stop orphanage trafficking?